Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be continuing the series on what if Saitama was in My Hero Academia. This is part 8, so if you haven't seen the previous part, go check that out. It'll be in the description below. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin part 8. Deku notices one of the students and remembers that he was the guy that he spoke to him when he was taking out trash. The three introduce themselves and the idea of work studies. To get a better idea of the students' skills, Mirio brings the class to the training grounds where he asks them to fight him. Like in canon, Mirio wipes the floor with the students. Mirio then asks Saitama, who's walking around, to fight with him, as the two have never squared off before. Sadly, Saitama has to decline as he's no longer allowed to battle indoors. Anyway, Mirio talks about work studies, and Class 1A becomes very excited. Later that day, Deku asks Gran Torino if he can do it with him. Sadly, he declines as he's working on a big project. Gran Torino brings up the point that he could do his work study with All Might's sidekick, Sir Night-Eye. Deku asks All Might if he can introduce himself to Sir Night-Eye, but he declines. All Might then summons Mirio and Saitama and asks them to introduce Deku. Mirio agrees, and the two trek off the next day. Nothing changes in their battle except the fact that while Sir Night-Eye provokes Deku, he brings up his battle with Saitama and how easily it was for him to grab the stamp. Anyway, Deku still loses, but still gets accepted to Sir Night-Eye's agency. Sir Night-Eye's plan is for Saitama and Deku to change days, one being off and on. On the day Deku is working, Mirio and Deku run into Eri, and everything happens like in canon. Some time passes, and Deku, Saitama, Kirishima, Uraraka, and Asui are all going to the same meeting place. There, they are introduced to the problem at hand with the Shiozaki and their experiments with Eri. This hits Saitama for some reason, as he's puzzled by the emotion. Before they leave for home, Mr. Aizawa gives them the speech about trust and how he's got their back, and the day ends with the meeting. During the period in which the heroes were looking for the hideout, the students in the work studies began to feel depressed and distraught. Saitama here continues to solve his puzzle of why he wanted the power he has, with the boy in the crab incident, the commissioner's words at the hero licensing exam, and now the girl at the Shiozaki hideout. Some time would pass, and before the class knew it, 2 days later at 8 o'clock, it was go time. All the heroes enrolled in the rescue met up at the location in which Sir Night-Eye gave out assignments. Here, Deku and Mirio are very pumped, and Saitama here is very tired, as it's pretty early. Then, the heroes and police arrived at the Shiozaki hideout. While approaching the building, everyone is attacked by one of the gang members. This then drives the team to rush the building. The heroes are met with villains left and right, but are able to apprehend them and move past them. The squad manages to find the secret entrance and continue moving closer to Eri. The squad is met by 3 villains, and like in canon, Amajiki takes care of them. Like in canon as well, Fat Gum and Kirishima are sent into the cave after saving Mr. Aizawa. The troops continue to move forward, getting closer and closer to their destination, when they are suddenly split up and met by the League of Villains. Sir Night-Eye asks Saitama if he can take care of the Shiozaki-gun, and with a single punch he launches him through the wall, where they are met by Mr. Aizawa and Deku. After this, Deku, Mr. Aizawa, Sir Night-Eye, and Saitama run into a room in which Mirio has been fighting Overhaul. Sadly, Mirio is still in the terrible condition as before. Mirio then brings Eri away, and Mr. Aizawa is captured by a Shiozaki thug. Like in canon, Sir Night-Eye loses to Overhaul, and Deku is on the ropes. Eri runs back in, telling everyone to stop, but Saitama turns on his serious face. He begins using Talk no Jutsu as he reflects on his past. Then, from 10 feet, throws a punch, sending Overhaul into the wall. Then, Ryuku, Uraraka, and Asui come in through the ceiling and go over to Sir Night-Eye. Overload, barely able to breathe, rebuilds his lungs and his body, then takes the grunt like in canon. He then comes charging for Eri, whom is now on Deku's back. Saitama tells Deku to leave, and as Overhaul Gets into his final form in the streets, Saitama follows. Overhaul charges at Saitama, but with his serious punch, he blows up Overhaul, leaving scattered remains of his barely living body around. Deku then suffers from Aries' attack due to him not using 100% of One for All, but Mr. Aizawa comes in and stops his quirk. Sadly, later that day, due to Tsunadai's injuries, he passes away still, and everyone is sad, including Saitama. The students were released from the hospital and sent home that day. Also sadly later that day, the League of Villains still get their hands on the 4 capsules, but this time they are shocked at the barely living state in which Overhaul is in. This actually puts fear into Shigaraki, but moves on away like in canon, putting an end to the tough day. Some time had passed, and the UA Sports Festival was about to begin. During the day, the class comes up with an idea to perform a concert. Nothing changes in their roster except Saitama is part of the background team, moving people like Ayame to where they're supposed to be. Like in canon, Deku decides to get some better rope for Saitama. Saitama asks if he would like to go himself, but Deku says no worries. On the day of the performance, Deku tracks off and faces off against the gentle criminal still. Their battle doesn't change, and neither does the performance. We still get to see that beautiful scene of Eri smiling, and the day ends with the performance putting the ice on the... And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, hit the like button, all that stuff that YouTubers normally ask for. And I'll see you next time. Take care and peace.